Okay, well, welcome to That Thursday Thing. This is episode 3. This is just a fun little corner of the Facebook world where we can get together on the first and third Thursday of each month and just do a little something fun. I called it That Thursday Thing because it's going to happen on Thursdays, and it just kind of allows us to do whatever we're thinking about. So, we could do a layout like we're doing today. We might do a card or a craft. We might talk about photos or organization. We've got lots and lots of things to play with. So just, mark on your calendar to join me here at 2:00 p.m. Mountain Time on the first and third Thursday, and we will play together and hang out and just do that Thursday thing. So today we are going to do a 1, 2, 3 layout, and I've had lots and lots of questions about, am I doing the free 1, 2, 3 layouts this year? And as I mentioned back in November when I did the November 1, 2, 3, the short answer is no. And before you get too sad about that or anything, let me just kind of give you a quick sort of recap of why I chose not to do a monthly 1, 2, 3s. The 1, 2, 3s are not gone. They've just sort of changed. And, it's really come down to how I can serve other fellow Creative Memories advisors, my own team, my own customers, and 1, 2, 3 fans. So for several years, I've done the free 1, 2, 3s, and of course, you can still get access to those in the free resources library. You can see the videos on YouTube. There's lots and lots there that you can play with. But about mid-year last year, I started getting a lot of questions, a lot of requests from my CM sisters, CM advisors, if I could just kind of, hop onto their Zoom classes that they were doing with their customers and teach a 1, 2, 3. And so it became apparent very quickly that I couldn't, I couldn't do all of the requests. I couldn't manage that number of times that I would be on and creating and stuff. And number 2, I do charge for my time when I'm, teaching at an event. You might have seen that I teach at some larger events, and I do charge for my time. I think it's still a very reasonable rate, but a lot of Creative Memories advisors that maybe have a smaller customer group wouldn't be able to, kind of budget for that kind of expense. So I thought, how can I serve more of the advisors? How can I help them help their customers? And so that's when kind of the 1, 2, 3 Insiders Access was born. And I worked with my pacing partner, Nicole So, on kind of, thinking about some details. She brainstormed a little bit for me. And, we came up with this idea that I would be providing something that advisors could use with their customers for a very modest fee, just $10 a month. And for that, I provide 2 1, 2, 3 layouts and sketches, cutting guide, handout, that kind of thing, with 3 variations each. And I also supply an instructional video that they can show their customers. And then we also do like a creative project. So there's kind of 3 ready to go things that advisors can use with their customers. So, but if you're, a 1, 2, 3 fan and you just look forward to that new 1, 2, 3 every month, you can certainly join the 1, 2, 3 Insiders as well. It's not just for advisors. If you want to have those 2 1, 2, 3s, some craft ideas, some videos, 3 videos to watch, and up to really 6 layout variations each month, it might be for you as well. Okay, so there's still lots and lots of freebies in the resource area, lots of videos to watch, lots of ways to adapt the 1, 2, 3s. And of course, I will still do some 1, 2, 3s like we're going to do today, just not every month. Okay. So I hope that kind of clears it up and kind of gives you a little bit of reason, why the change. This just seems like a good year to change it up a little bit and try to help support other CM advisors that were looking for help, especially with their Zoom classes and things like that. Okay, let's get into the 1, 2, 3, and I will tell you 2 things about it first. Hopefully some of you are scrapbooking with me today. And if you are, either give me a little thumbs up there or write in the comments what collection you're using to scrapbook along with me, okay? If you're not scrapbooking along, I will tell you that I will have a handout, okay? I've got kind of my sample one here. I will have a handout for you by later on this evening, and I will provide a link to that. Basically, my handout has a digital sort of rendition of the sketch. We're going to make the layout together today. I'm going to photograph it later, add it to the handout, and then I will publish it for you. So we'll be watching for that a little bit later on. So I'm looking forward to seeing some of your layouts that you guys create today. So I'm going to switch you over and let's get started here. Okay, so I've got the Love Wins on my table here, and I'm really enjoying working with this. You know, typically I don't do a lot of sort of pastel layouts, but I really like that there's these darker colors, and I like the combination of the greens and the pink reds. So I'm really enjoying this. I did a layout with this for the Creative Life Scrapbooking PJ party the other night, and you're going to see a couple of other things coming from me still using Love Win. So I am really enjoying it. Now, when I was thinking about a 1, 2, 3, however, if you've seen Love Wins in person, you know that it's really pretty, and it's great that it has the pinks and the greens, but there's fairly busy patterns on both sides of some of the papers. So some of the papers are better for 1, 2, 3s than others, okay? The one I'm going to be using today is this pink speckled with the stripe on the back, okay? But if you look at some of them, like this one in particular, has a nice overall pattern, and then on the back it's an overall pattern, but they're both very pale, so there's not going to be a lot of contrast. So the other thing is that I really love the kind of ombre sort of patterns or watercolor patterns, because they really give a sense of you know, reading as a solid. They're a really pretty background paper, but it's, you know, you get the two on one side, so that might be kind of a little, well, not boring, but you know, it might not be quite as interesting. You know, optimally I'd love to see, you know, those two on the front and back, and maybe these two, you know, and that would create a really great 1, 2, 3. But it's not to be, so we will adapt. And I'm going to kind of show you how I might tackle that. So I'm going to pull out the one that I'm using. And of course, with the 1, 2, 3s, we use one piece of the double-sided pattern paper. And then we grab 2 pieces of cardstock, or of course, if you scrapbook directly into your album pages, you'll need 2 album pages, and you'll want to open them as a spread with the staples together. Okay, so you can definitely do that. And so I think what we'll do is we'll talk about the cutting guide, and I'll go ahead and cut this, and then I'm going to talk about how you could use you know, if you didn't like both sides of a paper, I'm going to talk about how you could use 2 different papers to create this. Okay, so let me show you the cutting guide first. Oops, sorry. There we go. And this cutting guide is really, really straightforward. There's no stacking, you know, nothing too crazy. We're going to first cut at 3 inches. We're going to cut at 6 inches, and we're going to set those 2 3 by 12 inch strips aside. Then we're going to be left with one large 6 by 12 inch strip. We're going to turn that and cut it right at 6 inches, making it into 2 6 by 6 inch squares. Okay, so then what we're going to do is we're going to layer them together in the paper, and we're going to kind of create some blocks of color. You can see that both of the 6 by 6 inch squares kind of go into the center there, and then the strips go either above or below the squares, and it creates a really nice sort of block of color. Okay, so a really easy cutting. Let me get my cutter out, my 12-inch cutter. And we always talk a little bit about direction. Now, I love to use stripes. If I cut my strips this way or this way, it's not going to really matter too much, because with a diagonal stripe, you're still going to see all of the different colors that are in the stripe, okay? And this side as well is really an overall pattern, so we don't have to worry about it at all, okay? and we'll talk about that when we look at these papers, but if you have a directional print, instead of cutting down through it, you may want to, turn it and cut in a different direction so that you have the right orientation for the paper. So I'll talk about that again in a second. All right, so let's do a 3-inch cut and another 3-inch cut. Set those two 3 by 12 inches aside. Turn our last piece of paper, which is 6 by 12, and cut it into two 6 by 12 inch squares. Okay, put my cutter away for just a second. And that's really it. If this is your first 1, 2, 3, welcome to the quickest layouts going. Now I really like using stripes in long strips, so I'm going to start by just putting those there, and then we can kind of move things around so that everything is in that kind of block in the center, right? So that's really it. And then I'm going to mat these photos in just a minute. But I was telling the ladies at the pajama party that I came across kind of a treasure trove of photos. So Shane and I got married in where did we get married? We got married in Jamaica. We just went, just the two of us, and we have 12 photos from our wedding. That's it, 12 photos. That's what the photographer took. That's what we got. So every time I have an assignment to do like a wedding layout, everybody sees the same 12 photos. So I came across this treasure trove when I was sorting through my mom's photos, actually, and these were pictures of our wedding reception, our wedding party that we had when we came back to Calgary. So this was like a treasure trove of new photos to use from our wedding, or associated with our wedding. So I used some in the layout that I did during the CLS PJ party the other night. So if you were joining us then, you're seeing some similar photos here, but I'm just having a great time kind of scrapbooking them. So that is really the layout. That, while I was talking, I arranged my photos. I am actually going to mat some of them with crimson and some of them with the dark green. So let's go ahead and do that. And then after we get the photos matted, I will show you and we'll talk about how to use some of these more directional papers and kind of thing, if you don't like two sides, or if you're using up your stash, how you can adapt these 1, 2, 3 layouts and really make something that will work for the products that you're working with. All right, so I'm just going to cut, let me see, I'm going to do the two 4 by 4s over on this side with the crimson, because I want to kind of make them stand out from the green. There's a 4 by 4. And then I want to do the two 4 by 6s on the far side here in crimson as well. And then the two center ones, I'm going to use the dark green. So I just need two 4 by 6s. I often will talk about this. And Steph's asking what color cardstock. Sorry, Steph, if you didn't hear me, this is the crimson. And what I'm cutting right now is dark green. Okay, so those go really beautifully with the Love Wins collection. Okay, so I think I'll mat it like that. And crimson over here. And then, the reason I really like this Love Wins is that it doesn't look too sweet, if you know what I mean. It's not really sort of sappy. I really like that you can use the darker colors with it. The green obviously pulls out the green in here. I think you could use the leaf green as well. There's a very sort of small stripe of the leaf green. Okay, I don't know if you can see that, but that would work well too. And then of course, if no matter what paper you're using, you're probably going to find a cardstock that would work for mats. And as you saw before I matted those, you could definitely leave them with no mats. Okay, so you don't have to mat them. You just might like to do that just to provide a little bit of contrast. So that's really the layout. Okay, and again, I've got kind of a digital mock-up here, so you can see that I've got my striped paper as these strips. I've got the speckled paper for my 6x6 squares, 2 crimson mats, 2 dark green mats, and 2 more crimson mats. Okay, so this is what we'll come back to in just a second to do some embellishment, but let's talk about these papers here. So if I wanted to do this layout or any 1, 2, 3 layout with a paper that I didn't like both sides of, and I like each side, I just don't like them together. So when you see that together, that's a little bit overwhelming in terms of, that's a lot of hearts. So I would really like, you know, the kind of watercolor to balance it out. I would use these 2 papers together and these 2 papers together. So all I really need to do is to figure out which of the papers I want to be the strips and which I want to be the blocks. So for example, let's do this real quick. If I wanted the light green to be the strips so that I have, you know, I can maybe put my title on it or whatever. I'm going to look at this paper and I'm going to think, well, if I'm going to have 6-inch left over, because I'm going to cut 2 3x12-inch strips, I'm going to have 6x12 left over. So I can either choose to kind of cut down through here so that I have this strip left over, which I think I will do, and then I can probably do something with that. Or if it doesn't matter to me, I can cut it whichever way. All right. But so I'm going to just cut those 2 strips from here. And you know, this is nothing new. I've always said, if you don't have double-sided paper, if you want to, you know, do something with your stash and it's just single-sided paper, or you want to use things up, then go ahead and you know, just cut the individual shapes that you need for the layout out of the various papers. So for this one now, this is going to be the 6x6 6x6-inch squares. So it doesn't really matter which way I cut it, because if I cut it here and then across, the balloons will still be oriented in the right way. Again, if I cut it this way and then across, I just turn the pieces and they would be oriented in the right way. Okay, so I would just go ahead and cut my 2 squares. So really simple to adapt this. And now the nice thing about this is that I could do something still with these pieces. They're still big enough that I could use, you know, I could use them in some other layout. I could cut strips, I could do border strips, etc. Okay. The other thing is now that I've done cut out from 2 papers, I could actually flip these 2 over and have another completely different layout. Okay, so even though we've used 2 pieces of paper, we've got enough here to make another layout. And let's just go ahead and switch this around, see how it looks. Should have glued those down, but now we can, you know, play around and see what we like better. Now there's no red in this, so I would probably, you know, change the photos to the green, the dark green. But just so we get a sense. Okay, that's how that would look. Get those all back in place. Okay, so that's how it would look with the green. Let's just flip over one side here. Again, those hearts are pretty random, so it wasn't a big deal. And that's how it would look with the pink side. So just, you know, don't be too worried if you don't have paper that you love both sides of. You can still use these sketches and, you know, create something that that you really do like. Okay, so that's kind of my spiel on working with papers that you don't like both sides. So don't discount the 1, 2, 3 sketches for that. All right, I'm just going to start getting out my adhesive here, and we're going to actually put this all together, get these out of the way. I did see a I did see a comment about, do I cut my photos to fit my 4x6 mats? And that's from Kishwar in Australia. Kishwar, I always cut my mats when I'm working with a sketch like this. I always cut my mats to the size indicated on the sketch. And then I cut my photos down just a bit. So on the sketch, we've got 2 4x4s, 4x6s, and then 6x4s. So that's what I cut the size of my colored cardstock mats to. And then I did prep my photos ahead of time. And when I typically print my photos at home, they're a little bit smaller than 4x6s anyways. So I just will cut them down if needed, just to trim them up to that 1/4 inch smaller. So the photos themselves are either 3 3/4 by 3 3/4 or 5 3/4 by 3 3/4. Okay. I feel like I'm coming to the end of this refill. All right. So I think those are all down. Let's get this down now. And then we'll talk really quickly about embellishing. And I've got a couple of tips for you with this collection. Might have done that a little bit high, but that's okay. With the striped strips, that's a bit of a tongue twister you got to be careful with. With the striped strips, I do like to make sure my stripes are going the same way. You could, if I flip them, it's no big deal. But sometimes if you cut them from different parts of the paper, you have them going in an opposite direction. So when you can, just kind of notice which direction they're going in and go with it. All right, last piece here. That will just fit in there. When I do this in real time, I always think I'm just kind of leaving you guys hanging out there. Now, again, I like symmetry, so I would make sure that the bottom of this is, you know, equal there. In the sketch, I've got it actually a little bit lower, and then I make sure that the photo here is going to match. So let's do it that way. I'll follow the sketch as closely as I can, but you take as much license with it as you like. You make it work for you. You could replace any of these 4x6 inch photos with, you know, 2 3x5, yeah, or 3x4s. And then you could also, go just a little bit higher, and you could also you know, switch them out for 4x4s. I've said this before, but I think 4x4s are just the most versatile photo size to work with when you're designing a sketch or when you're, you know, following a sketch. When you see a layout that has spots for 4x4 photos, it's great because you can cut that one down from a vertical, you know, in these ones I basically could just cut that off like that, and or from a horizontal, and I could just cut the edges off. So 4x4s are a really versatile thing to work with. Okay, so we've got all the photos down. I think I would have moved this down just a little bit more. I didn't measure quite accurately there when I was putting it together. But what I do want to do is I want to add some borders now. So you can do a couple of different things. If you have the new heart-to-heart border punch, you could cut that, punch that out with, you know, some of the, maybe the crimson or the green, and add it down here. But I've got these ready, you know, ready to go border strips. So I can use the green like that against the green strips, or I could use a pink. So I'm going to hold them both up, and then I want your opinion as to which you like best, and then I'll tell you my opinion. So there is the pink. So which do you think? What should I put along the top edge here and the bottom edge here? Should I use the green border strips or the pink? All right, I'm going to leave that off to the side for now while we talk about some other things, and I want you guys to put in the comments green or pink. All right, and then as for titles, because with this with this sticker strip, you have a ton of hearts, but there's only a couple of stickers that actually have words on them. So I could take the, the love sticker, maybe, make a little cluster like that and make my title from that. Okay. Or, where does this one go? I think it goes there. There's some other options. Now, if you noticed, I'm going to switch you over for a second here while you're voting. If you noticed on the CM website, the bundle of the Love Wins collection includes a bonus Sweetheart theme pack. So in other words, they're telling us that the Sweetheart theme pack works really, really nicely with Love Wins. So I dug out my Sweetheart. This was released last year. Here's my Sweetheart theme pack. For those of you who know, I just like to keep everything together in the bag, and then I just add one of these little, I think they're called like post-it dividers or post-it flags, and I just write the name of the collection on it and put it on the side, and then I store it vertically with the tab hanging out of my shelf, and I can just grab it. So I've got the leftovers of Sweetheart in here, and Sweetheart includes, there's part of the Sweetheart collection that has these beautiful laser cut embellishments, and they are really, really super pretty. So I was kind of thinking that this would be a really nice title because it's nice and big, right? It's going to take up space, and it's really going to provide a really pretty focal point there. So there's lots and lots of different things I could add here and play with. The other thing that you could do for a title, two other options actually. The other options are from, funnily enough, the Natural Disposition laser cut embellishments. Okay, there's quite a few that would work here, and I was thinking in particular this You and Me. So I could do something like that with, a nice heart accent. So that would be a great title as well. I like that a lot. So that's an option. And if you're a stamper, you might have realized that the little celebration title stamp kit has a really fun little You're Loved a stamp with it. So it might not be the best for a wedding page, for example, but if you were doing a page about love for a child, a family member, a pet, something like that, that little You're Loved would be a gorgeous title as well. You could just stamp it onto a little piece of cardstock, maybe a scrap of white cardstock, and then pop that over there. Okay. So lots of examples and ideas for titles. There's another one, nice one, Love You. Okay, and there's the green, although that kind of disappears into the green. So again, I think I really like that one. So I think that's what I'm going to do. And then I'm going to count up your votes and see if I should put the pink or the green. So after I get off here, I'm going to count those up, finish up my layout, and then I'll take a picture of it, and then the handout will be all set for you. Okay? So I hope that that one is an easy 1, 2, 3 for you. And again, I would love to see if you've been scrapping along. Feel free to finish off your page and then post a picture of it here in the comments so that we can see, your version of the layout. Okay? All right, and I will be back later on tonight to provide the link to the handout for you so that you can go and print out a copy for your own future reference, okay? So again, if you're a 1, 2, 3 lover, definitely think about the 1, 2, 3 insiders. It's not just for advisors, it's for all of those 1, 2, 3 fans out there. I would love for you to join us and get 2 1, 2, 3s each month with lots of variations. You could actually make 6 different layouts with the 2 sketches that I create each month, plus some fun additional things. So, and it's starting to be a nice little community inside the group too. Lots of sharing going on. So that's always a bonus. Okay. All right, I'm looking forward to reading through your comments here. I'm going to sign off. We started a little bit late, but I think I've kept you about half an hour. So I'm going to sign off for now. I'll be back later on tonight to post that link to the handout. And I hope you've marked your calendars and you'll join me again in 2 weeks, the third Thursday of February, when we do another That Thursday thing. Okay? Awesome. All right. Thanks so much for joining me today, guys. Have a great week, and we'll see you again soon. Bye-bye for now.